I am your friendly host for this little talk this morning, Tom Tresser, and I've been active in the theater and the arts and civics in the city since 1980. So what we're going to talk about this morning is performing Shakespeare using the Comedy of Errors. So we'll see what happens when we get to the part where we're supposed to read, because I thought there'd be more people, but we'll see what we can do.
Sure.
So what we want to do is take you back in time, and we're going to look at performance conditions from the Globe and how that impacts performing the text. I'll talk about my time with the Free Shakespeare Company, and we'll do some readings and have some time for interaction, and then we'll reconvene in April, as I understand it.
Yeah. Cool.
So this is a reconstruction, reimagining of what Shakespeare's Globe looked like when he performed, when he wrote the shows. It was built in 1599 by Shakespeare's playing company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. It was destroyed by fire in June of 1613, and it was rebuilt in 1614. And then a modern reconstruction, which is what you see the picture above, or I'll show you a picture in a minute, was painfully and painstakingly reconstructed in 1997, about 750 feet from where the original Globe stood. So the first question is, what do we notice about this playhouse?
Theater in the round.
It's in the round.
Open to the elements.
Open to the elements, yes. There is no roof.
Right.
All right. What else?
Open only, fully open on one side. I don't know exactly what to say.
No, that's the cutout.
Oh, okay.
So it's a globe. It's a circle.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, we're standing right by the stage.
Yeah. There's no seats. I mean, on the orchestra level, those are the groundlings.
Oh.
And you can see that they're right up and close and personal.
Right.
So they come right to the edge.
If they didn't like the play, they threw oranges and things.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
So yeah, it's broad daylight.
Yeah.
People are standing in close proximity right up to the front of the stage. So what else can you deduce from what you see about what the stage conditions?
Is what we see on the left-hand side all backstage? If so, it seems like
it's a cutaway that shows what's going on. The three little.
Yeah.
So there's a backstage. There's this stuff. But what do you see on the stage?
Not much. No
Not
color, no lighting, no scenery.
That's right.
No scenery. Yeah.
There's no scenery.
Yeah.
And there's no lighting. I mean, obviously, no electricity, so no stage lighting.
Yeah.
And so you can start to imagine how to perform Shakespeare under those circumstances, given what the kind of shows we've seen. It's estimated that 700 people could stand.
Wow.
In that area, a total of 1,570 people all together in the space. So this is what the modern reconstruction of the Globe looks like when it's fully engaged. So you can see the people are standing all up in there, right up to the edge on all sides. The stage is pretty bare. I think maybe they could put out a chair, a bench, that kind of thing.
So I have a question. So the upper tiers, were those people higher in society than the people down there?
Yeah, I think in that Shakespeare's day, that's where the noble ones stood.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, the queen had a box.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the paying customers, the more upper class folk could pay and sit, in those boxes. And the
did those
seats,
people? Did the people on the ground have to pay anything, or was it?
Yeah, it was like I don't know, a couple of tuppence, a threepence, whatever. I mean, it was pretty modest.
Okay.
Those were the cheap seats, as it were, the groundlings. Now, You can't see it from this picture, but in Shakespeare's day, there was people selling fruit. People were eating, engaging with their friends. It's not like you're in the dark. You see everything. You see your friends. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Like Ravinia.
Like Ravinia, but imagine if you were right up in the orchestra.
But also performed in the daytime, since there was no electricity or illumination, huh?
No, there's no electricity, obviously. I mean, no way to guide your attention, as it were,
Right.
with
But
effects.
also where the
Okay, that's a good way to say it. No way to guide the attention.
So that
yeah.
means if the villain enters, or if there's someone is going crazy, it's not like you could just darken the lights or do some kind of sound effects or give any sort of external hint to the audience of what's supposed to be happening or what they're supposed to be feeling. It is what it is. If the show starts at 2 o'clock, it's, and it goes for an hour, it's 3 o'clock. I mean, there's no other externalities other than the text the actors are speaking and their physical bodies. So this is the opening day of the Reconstructed Globe Theater it was Henry V, and
It's a good one to open with.
the leader was Mark Rylance. Mark Rylance is, of course, a super famous actor. We've seen him in many films. He won the Academy Award recently. He's coming up in a new film called The Outfit, in which he plays a tailor connected to the mafia.
Wait, what's the name? What's the guy's?
Mark Rylance.
How do you spell it?
Look up.
Rylance. Just looked him up.
Mark?
Diane, did you see Don't Look Up?
Yes, I did.
He played the inventor who was trying to figure out how to get rid of the comet and also to settle on other planets.
How do you spell his last name?
Rylance.
Oh, Rylance. Yeah.
So you see here again, the audience is right up to the edge of the stage on all sides.
Oh, yeah.
And what year was this, Tom?
Huh?
What year was this?
This is 1997.
97. Okay.
And
So-
in Shakespeare's time, did they have music like in a pit? Like
Yeah, there could have been music played off stage in that little back area, but there's no pit.
Okay.
But
So
there had to be music because they ended with a dance. So
yeah, so there was music, there was live music, but there was no orchestra pit. The musicians might have been fully visible. They might have been in that overhead area.
But like to make sounds like danger, like this is a bad person that's going to walk on the stage. Did they
No,
use
they
the-
didn't do that.
No? Okay.
They did have some crude sound effects, though. They did have a metal sheet to signify thunder. They did have that, but that was about it. The point here is, the actors were keenly aware of their audience. They're staring right at them. There was no fourth wall. The fourth wall is a modern convention of theatricality from maybe 100 years ago, in which the artists construct, as it were, a dome or a bubble in which they're performing their work, that they're living a life on stage, and they do not recognize the audience.
Oh.
They're supposed to be in a fully lived world, and we, the audience, are seeing through this transparent wall, as it were, observing the life on stage as it unfolds. But there was no such convention in those days. The playwright fully knew the audience was there and wanted the audience to be part of the fun. The actors knew the audience was there, and the audience knew that the actors knew, if you follow me.
Yeah.
So with all that going on, very little scenery, maybe swords, that side of things. If they were fighting, yeah, they had swords, and maybe if they're drinking, they had goblets, that sort of thing. But there was no horses on stage. There were no, to indicate a house. It was a chair, that's it.
Huh.
So we have to now wonder how that affected the performance conditions. How did that affect the delivery of the text? Well, a guy named John Russell Brown, who passed in 2015, was a scholar and educator and director and an author of many texts around performing and directing Shakespeare. He edited the Oxford Illustrated History of the Theater, which is often considered like the go-to reference for theater. He was the close associate of the director Peter Hall at the National Theater for about 15 years. And he, John Russell Brown, had a lot to say about performing Shakespeare. And he wrote a book called Free Shakespeare. And what I know of what I'm talking to you about is from that book and from applying his lessons in performance. So here's a classic performer from the 16 to 1700s performing Richard III. But the kind of Shakespeare that we're used to seeing today, you might think that you're in church or something. I mean, there's a lot of reverence around the bard.
Yeah.
And the American acting tradition, which is naturalistic and looks inward and is based somewhat on Stanislavski, you know, with your feeling and your memories, your sense memory. You know, think of Marlon Brando, think of a lot of great, you know, modern actors who are, they're very drawing on a deep inner life. And they take their time, let's say, when they're delivering their characters, they're pausing and there's a lot of reaching inward before they go outward. But Shakespeare's people had none of that. First of all, the ensemble that Shakespeare worked with was a crew of people that were together for years and years and years, and they knew each other intimately. And of course, they were all men. No women performed on the stage in those times. So all female roles were taken by men, younger actors who could portray the women, and the older men would portray the maid or the elderly wife and so forth. But in other words, no women performers. He worked with an ensemble. The audiences got to know these people very well, and that certain actors were associated with the lead roles, the dramatic roles, the comic roles, the clowns, the ingenue, you know, et cetera. So that was a signal that the author would use to signify this is a comic. Before the character even spoke his words, the audience could sort of see, oh, here comes, you know, Richard Pryor, he's going to be funny, you know, or whatever. Here comes Nicole Williamson, he's going to be the brooding hero. They were already kind of telegraphing that. Also, remember, Shakespeare was writing these things, right? He wasn't pulling from a library. So he was writing his plays and producing what were called sides. Again, for economy, and because they didn't have access to a printing press, it was not possible or economical to produce a full script for each actor. That was unheard of. Instead, you got your side. So if you're playing Hamlet, the author would give you the pages that had your parts and only the cue line.
Wow.
And if you were playing Rosencrantz or Guildenstern, the same thing. And there would be a meeting of the actors to sort of run through the thing, but there was no director.
Huh.
They did not have what we would call a modern stage director who sort of took control of the thing, had a concept, if you will, told the actors where to stay. You know, you cross on that line, and on this line, I think you should sit down, drink water, whatever. No, there was nobody telling the actors what to do or to tell them how to be. Like, you know, I think that Hamlet is a young, troubled, you know, whatever, and you should play him as if he just broke out of jail. No, there was no director to give the guidance to the actors in that way. So you had to be pretty resilient. You had to be pretty improvisational. You had to be on your feet and listening for when you're supposed to speak. And there was no blocking. So you had to understand how to put yourself on the stage to command the attention of this unruly people facing you in broad daylight.
So it sounds like Commedia dell'arte. Right?
No, it's not that. This is a robust playing style in which the actors are in the moment, speaking their lines.
But they're
being
icons, you know? They're kind of like, you know, archetypes? Like the professor, the clown?
No, they're inhabiting their characters fully. It's
Okay.
just they have to be fully alive to what their fellow actors are doing and where they're standing on the stage
Yeah.
and what the audience is doing. The audience is giving them instant feedback like, this is boring, or we are totally with you.
Yeah.
Because the actors can see that, but they're still saying the lines as the author wrote, playing in what I would call a supernatural kind of acting style. Because we'll see from Shakespeare's prose and his writing, his characters are speaking intelligent, dense language, even if they're stupid. Even if the character is a low-born character, Shakespeare has given him language that is very artfully constructed, and the audiences understood rhetoric. They understood the intricacies of language. They appreciated puns, rhymes. They loved all that stuff. So, as we'll see, the characters are speaking. They sound natural in the sense of they sound like real characters, but they're rhyming. They're punning, they're doing all kinds of fun things that is not actually naturalistic. And yet the style demands that you deliver these lines as a living character. Also, one of John Russell Brown's points is they're speaking rapidly. Again, there's no pausing, there's no introspection and dwelling. They're speaking very quickly because in Romeo and Juliet, the chorus says, the fearful passage of their death-marked love and their continuance of their parents' rage, which, but for their children's end, nor could resolve, is now the 2 hours traffic of our stage.
Oh, gosh.
2 hours. That means you speak quickly and get off stage. So one of the conventions that we discovered at the Free Shakespeare Company was, in order to move this thing,
you have to tell them what the Free Shakespeare Company was, Tom.
I will in a second. I'll just tell you this one tip was, you speak your first line as you appear on stage. So if you are entering a scene or you're starting a scene, you speak immediately upon being visible. And then you also have to move your body in such a way that if you close the scene, you speak your last line as you exit, because the next guy is already coming on.
Wow.
Okay. So rapid and sustained speaking. It also means the actors are very physical. They're using their bodies and their voices to command the attention of the groundlings and the audience. The presence of the audience was acknowledged by Shakespeare, as we know, because the actors often speak directly to the audience in what are called asides. Often the actor is alone on stage, but not 100%. And when an actor speaks to an aside, he or she takes in the audience. I mean, it is, I'm speaking to you, and I want you to acknowledge that. And I'm drawing you into my world.
Did Shakespeare invent asides, or had that been a convention earlier?
I don't know. That's a good question. He certainly was a master of them.
Yeah.
Where the characters are speaking their innermost thoughts, basically. Right. Or they're being sly and they're mocking their fellow characters, or they're expressing some incredible discovery, like what the F is going on, and I'm sharing that moment of like discovery or astonishment with the audience directly. It's a delightful conspiracy, which the audience was very aware of and fully entered into. And I also believe that the actors sometimes would actually touch the audience when called for, actually physically grab them, not to pull them on stage, but to engage them, or to actually deliver lines directly to a person in the audience, maybe in the front, and actually wait for their reaction.
Wow.
And that the audience, that audience member who was so engaged could like laugh or look around or go, have some reaction, and that actually triggered the other reactions in the audience.
They couldn't wait too long for a reaction if they're going to get through Romeo and Juliet in 2 hours.
Yeah, but it's selected. It's not all the time. It's just
Okay.
very selected moments that could happen. Not all the time. Okay. So, in the words of Mr. Brown, the productions of those days were not a well-oiled machine, but was more like a football match in which the actor's skill was always wholly on trial. It was free, moment by moment, hence his book, The Free Shakespeare Company. So think about that, that the affect of a performance of Shakespeare was like being at a hockey match or something, or a football match where you're shouting and this, you're into it, you're leaning into it, you're feeling the impact of the players upon the players in that way. You're rooting, as it were. You have that sense of physicality. That is a very different affect from the way we experience most theater today. It's certainly the way we expect Shakespeare.
Yeah.
So I was a founder of something called the Free Shakespeare Company in 1981. And I became eventually their managing director and for a time the president of the board. We performed in a small renovated movie theater inside Piper's Alley, now long demolished. And that's me there as Puck.
Oh,
And as I say, we did not have a director or a costumer. So when
Wow.
we performed our plays, everyone was responsible for their own costume and their own blocking. And we would do run-throughs just to get the scene set. In other words, what's called tops and bottoms or ins and outs. But we wouldn't actually perform the show in full until we had a live audience.
Oh my gosh. It's very
and
much
so-
like in Shakespeare's day, huh?
Huh?
Very much like in Shakespeare's day.
Yes, that's right. So we as a theater company was trying to get to those performance conditions, but of course we weren't full-time actors, who've been with each other for years and years and years. We all had day jobs. So what we did is we gave ourselves workshops under the direction of our founder, Frank Farrell, who had studied in London under John Russell Brown. And he was an expert at improvisation. So he taught us improv games and also stage pictures and other techniques that improvers use. Because again, in the world of improvisation, you're performing without a script or a director.
what's a stage picture?
A stage picture is how the actors comport themselves on stage, who's downstage, who's upstage, who takes focus.
Oh,
So what the audience is perceiving,
Okay.
as the two actors interact, or if there's more than 2 or 3 actors, where does your eye go? And it's usually, when there's a director blocks the scene in such a way that the person speaking has your command, has your focus. He or she is usually downstage or closer to the audience, and the other actors are not speaking or doing anything at the time. They're giving that actor focus. And as the scenes shift and the dialogue progresses, your eye as the audience is guided, through the director's blocking and of course through lighting. But there was none of that for Shakespeare. So how did they not trip all over themselves and not all be in the same line or one actor hiding another? Right. So these are things that you learn over time. But as I say, we didn't have that kind of time. So we studied the techniques of improvisation, which include what's called throwing focus. So if we're performing a scene together where neither of us has ever spoken these words before, there is no script, there is no director, how do I know when to stop talking and let you talk in this, in whatever scene we're performing, And if there's more than one actor on stage, it could be a real mess. We're all talking at the same time. The audience doesn't know where to look. So seasoned performers who know how to do this are able to think very quickly in the moment, and they know when to shut up and they know when to throw focus to the next person. So that's what we did for ourselves. Now you see this program right here, Shakespeare's Birthday Marathon. We actually performed for 24 hours straight as a fundraiser for the Easter Seals. We performed 7 plays in 24 hours, including doing Midsummer Night's Dream twice, once at the beginning and once at the end, and the actors switched their parts. Here's some images. That's me as Puck again in Midsummer Night's Dream, and you can see Frank Farrell, the founder. He dressed himself up like in a Halloween. He found some ears, and he gave himself a crown.
Oh, yeah.
He had some pantaloons, a cape. And I gave myself long johns. I dressed myself in like underwear. I dyed the underwear orange.
Huh.
And I gave myself a nice, funny, like a hippie belt and a little scarf and some makeup that I don't know, sort of I thought looked elvish or something. But on the right, that's me as the Duke from Measure for Measure. And now that was a few years later. Now we had a director that was directed by the famous Chicago director Sheldon Patinkin. And I think he was a cousin of Mandy Patinkin.
Oh.
And Julia Maish as Isabella. And that obviously had scenery, it had costumes and blocking. So we're now a little bit away from the Free Shakespeare dictates. The image in the front is a publicity photo. That's myself, I guess, as a moody Hamlet with Kathy Kirk. In 1985, I produced the first full-length performance of Shakespeare in Lincoln Park. So here you see the actors facing the audience doing, we were doing As You Like It. And that's Julia Maish and Elizabeth Kelly. Elizabeth is Rosalind. And again, you can see the audience is right up there in our face. And so this is the zoo, the fence to the zoo is like directly behind us. So if you took another step, a few steps back, you're up against the fence of the zoo. The image on the right is me and Kathy Kirk performing. We've performed all over the suburbs and city, doing scenes from Shakespeare for school groups. And this was a scene from Romeo and Juliet. And she's using a folding chair as to signify the balcony. And that's about it. I mean, that's about all the staging that we would ever use.
Oh my gosh.
And we would run through the audience. And so when I said, you know, but soft, what light through yonder window breaks, I was actually asking a person in the front row. I would tap them on the shoulder and I go, what? I was asking them, can you see what light? Do you know? Do you know? And they were like, wow, what are you asking me for? I'm in the audience. She's not supposed to be talking to me. And we would run through the audiences all the time. When we would play a scene from Midsummer, and I was Demetrius and she was Helena and she was chasing me, we would run through the audience. I would use the audience as a shield. I would hold someone up as like to protect me. I would jump in someone's lap. It was really wonderful, and the audiences loved it. We performed Shakespeare scenes for schools all over the city. This is a group of kids. And again, we were right in front of them. We would go right into where they were seating, and they loved it. And this is from A Midsummer, and this is where I'm Bottom. And she's Titania, and she's wooing me and about to put a spell on me. And the kids are just like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. This is the audience, but they loved it.
I bet.
I guess we probably performed for about 200,000 kids.
Wow.
We took Shakespeare into the parks with, we performed many times in Lincoln Park and down in Hyde Park. But this is a fun image from our production of Comedy of Errors, interestingly enough, which we did in Oz Park in 1985. Now, you see the woman on the right who's holding on to the actor, and she's kind of looking
My left,
with a fun expression. That is Jane Lynch
on the left.
on the left.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's right, the left.
Oh, okay.
Jane Lynch, multiple Emmy winner, Grammy winner, whatever. She, of course, was Coach Sylvester from Glee. She's going to appear right now in a few weeks in the revival of Funny Girl on Broadway. And she was a member of the Free Shakespeare Company.
And she's in Hacks.
And
She
An HBO show called Hacks.
no,
fabulous.
she's not in Hacks. She's in Mrs. Maisel.
Oh, Mrs. Maisel, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is she?
She
Yeah.
plays Sophie, the obnoxious
Oh, right. Correct. Okay.
Southern.
Started
Yeah.
watching the new season.
Yeah, that's Jane Lynch. Now,
Okay.
we performed there several seasons in Oz Park, and it formed the basis of what became the Oz Park Festival. And it grew so big that the neighbors kicked them out of Oz Park and relocated the festival to the Lincoln Park by the zoo. And in that particular performances, that particular production of Comedy of Errors, I played a gypsy and who has a comic but intense sword fight with one of the twins. But I was also the producer of the entire production. I basically, made it happen, did the publicity, the whole logistics of it. All right, so let's turn our attention now to the Comedy of Errors, in which two sets of identical twins are separated. They go on a voyage and they mix things up and hijinks ensue. I mean, that's about it. That's it in a nutshell.
Right.
So let's take a look at some of these and some of the texts and how this thing works.
Okay.
So let's call Steadying the Sage. Let's open our texts, please, to Act 1, Scene 1. With the Duke and Aegeon. So would Diane like to play the role of Aegeon?
Okay.
And is it Jim?
Jim, and
Jim,
can you,
will you
be
be the
okay, by
Duke?
the way? Is my microphone working all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good, okay.
Just may want to come a little closer to it. You'll be the Duke. And we'll read from line 1 to line 155. So basically, it's these two characters interacting. So they walk on stage right away. And let's go. Let's start with Aegeon. Go ahead.
Proceed, Solinus, to procure my fall, and by the doom of death and woes and all.
All right, so keep going.
Merchant of Syracuse, plead no more. I am not partial to infringe our laws. The enmity and discord which of late sprung from the rancorous outrage of your Duke to merchants, our well-dealing countrymen, who, wanting guilders to redeem their lives, have sealed his rigorous statutes with their bloods, excludes all pity from our threatening looks. For since the mortal and intestine jars twixt thy seditious countrymen and us, it hath in solemn synods been decreed, both by the Syracusians and ourselves, to admit no traffic to our adverse towns. Nay, more, if any born at Ephesius be seen at any Syracusian marts and fairs. Again, if any Syracusian born come to the bay of Ephesius, he dies. His goods confiscate to the Duke's dispose, unless 1,000 marks be levied to quit the penalty and to ransom him. Thy substance, valued at the highest rate, cannot amount unto 100 marks. Therefore, by law, thou art condemned to die.
Okay, so let's stop for a moment. Okay, so what's happening here right away?
It doesn't sound like a comedy. Here's a guy about to be, killed because he came from the wrong town, because these two towns were enemies, and he's not worth 1,000 marks.
Right, and we have, we know that one of them, Merchant of Syracuse, please no more. So we know where one guy comes, and also we say he also is informing us that we're in Ephesus.
Right, right.
So again, there's no program, there's nothing in your hand to know any of this, right? So the playwright has to set up this, has to tell us where we are and who these people are. Now, the audience may have some help because the guy dressed as the Duke might have like a gold chain or something, Yeah. So it's like this guy is probably an official or royal or somebody important, and Aegeon might have a common outfit, what Elizabethans were wearing. I mean, they weren't costumed like the way we think of costumes, right? Like it's not like he was coming out with dressed like a businessman with a briefcase or something. He was dressed as maybe a well-dressed fellow would be dressed. So we have to know pretty fast who these guys are.
Well, you do know really fast about the pact, that you had to pay a fine if you, went into Jim. What are you doing?
I'm the Duke, so I'm wearing a nice hat.
Yeah. So you're laying it all out.
Oh, that's so cute. Okay. So anyway,
and he says his goods confiscate to the Duke's dispose, and he might have he might have gestured to himself. You know, he might have
Okay,
patted
right.
he might have gestured to himself on that.
Well, you did mention that there was a lot of physicality.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of gesturing and facial expressions and things like that.
Well, yeah, I would say it's not hogging. Don't saw the air, thus, as Hamlet warned. But
What did he say?
he said, you know, remember he said, do not saw the air with your hands, thus.
Oh.
So no, I wouldn't say there's a lot of mugging, but
Yeah.
physicality would be robust portrayal, using your voice very
Yeah.
expertly.
Okay.
So in this case, he says, you know, his goods confiscate to the Duke's dispose. He might have made a slight gesture to himself in case it wasn't clear. Therefore, by law, thou art condemned to die. I mean, that's not everybody can condemn somebody to die. So
I have a question about pronunciation. So when they have what I call like accent grave, you know, in French, the one that goes like that, like in math. So like on the word levied on line 21, do you pronounce it levied?
it depends. I don't know if we're going to scan it, unless 1,000 marks be levied. It might be, yes. Could
I
be.
see, because that's throughout the play, and I didn't quite know how that, because
Well,
of-
remember, Shakespeare's writing in iambic pentameter. So this is, again, one of the
yes,
not normal speaking. I mean, we don't speak like that. And yet
Correct.
he managed to convey a wide range of characters from all stations and all situations, young, old, dying, in love, angry, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Using this rhyme scheme. And it helps to follow. It helps tell you where the emphasis should be and where the emotion is. The other thing to remember about Shakespeare, and this is true, what Mr. Russell Brown pointed out, is that the punctuation that you're reading right now
mhm,
is completely arbitrary. It's best guessed hundreds of years of editorship, but the scraps and playbooks and chapbooks and texts that were created after the fact of Shakespeare's performance were, again, all guessworks.
wow.
We don't have an actual script, as it were, you know,
Mhm.
obviously in Shakespeare's own hand, you know, that he gave to the actors. We're getting things
Yeah.
written down later. You know what I'm saying? So it makes sense to have the punctuation where it is, but in fact, the actor was guided by the flow of the speech.
Speech. You know, Diane, my edition doesn't have those marks, which may be plus and a minus, but you know, I think it's interesting because when I was young, in like high school or whatever, and we'd do Shakespeare plays, there would be this slavish attention to iambic pentameter, and it would be da 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 da. And after high school, I spent a year going to school in England, and we would go to the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford. Peter Brooks was directing at the time some remarkable works, and it was fascinating because they spoke, and you thought, at least this was my reaction, you know, my God, they're speaking Elizabethan English, but it sounds perfectly natural and contemporary.
I
Right.
know.
That's
Right.
the magic of the
is
English
magic.
actors who grew up.
Yeah.
Well, this is true. I was getting used to English accents at the time too, but I think there is something to be said for, you know, not trying too hard to make it fit perfect iambic pentameter.
No,
at the expense of-
you use the rise and fall as a guide for emotional emphasis, but it does not have that sing-songy. That is not.
Oh,
what we're
okay,
talking
that makes sense. Okay.
So what we're seeing here is that Shakespeare's setting up the scene pretty fast. We have to establish who's who pretty fast and what the stakes are. The stakes are high. So let's continue. Same act, same people playing. With starting with EGN on line 31. A heavier task could not be imposed.
I'm sorry, I was writing a note. Where are we? Tom?
Line 31. A heavier task could not have been imposed.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's me. Yeah, a heavier task could not have been imposed than I speak my griefs unspeakable. Yet that the world may witness that my end was wrought by nature, not by vile offense, I'll utter what my sorrow gives me leave. In Syracusa was I born, and wed unto a woman happy but for me, and by me had not our hap been bad. With her I lived in joy. Our wealth increased by prosperous voyages I often made to Epidemnum. till my factor's death and the great care of goods at random left, drew me from kind embracements of my spouse, from whom my absence was not 6 months old before herself, almost at fainting under the pleasing punishment that women bear, had made provision for her following me, and soon and safe arrived where I was. There had she not been long, but she became a joyful mother of 2 goodly sons, in which was strange, the one so like the other as could not be distinguished but by names. That very hour, and in the selfsame inn, a meaner woman was delivered of such a burden, male twins, both alike. Those, for their parents were exceedingly poor, I bought and brought up to attend my sons. My wife, not meanly proud of 2 such boys, made daily motions of our home return. Unwilling, I agreed. Alas, too soon we came aboard. Is that it?
No,
Oh, what
keep
am I
going.
doing? Wait, oh, sorry.
There's
A
more.
league, yeah. A league from Epidemium had we sailed before the always wind-obeying deep gave any tragic instance of our harm. But longer did we not retain much hope, for what obscured light the heavens did grant, did but convey unto our fearful minds a doubtful warrant of immediate death, which though myself would gladly have embraced, yet the incessant weepings of my wife, weeping before for what she saw must come, and piteous plainings of the pretty babes that mourned for fashion, ignorant what to fear, forced me to seek delays for them and me. And this it was, for other means was none. The sailors sought for safety by our boat and left the ship, then sinking ripe to us. My wife, more careful for the latter born, had fastened him unto a small spare mast, such as seafaring men provide for storms. To him one of the other twins was bound, whilst I had been like heedful of the other. The children thus disposed, my wife and I, fixing our eyes on whom our care was fixed, fastened ourselves at either end the mast, and floating straight, obedient to the stream, was carried toward Corinth, as we thought. At length the sun, gazing upon the earth, dispersed those vapors that offended us, and by the benefit of his wished light, the seas waxed calm, and we discovered 2 ships from afar, making amain to us, of Corinth that, of Epidaurus this. But ere they came, oh, let me say no more, gather the sequel by that went before.
All right, so there's a lot of information here.
Yeah.
This is a very typical device of a character relating their origin story. You know, I'm going to tell you there's a storm. I had 2 twins. There was other twins that we got parted. There was a shipwreck. Oh my God, it's a lot going on. Now, here's another thing that we picked up from Mr. Russell Brown. He advises to speak, again, imagine there's no punctuation except the period.
Okay.
And you speak the line on one breath. So let's go back to line 70, looks like 77 or 78. It starts with my wife.
Yeah.
And ends with heedful of the other. Okay.
I think it doesn't it end with storms?
No, my wife more careful for the latter born, and then it concludes whilst I had been like heedful of the other. So it's like 5 lines.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at commas then. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So just start with the words my wife, and then ends with the words heedful of the other. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Say it on one breath.
Okay.
Straight through.
My wife, more careful for the latter born, had fastened him unto a small spare mast, such as seafaring men provide for storms. To him one of the other twins was bound, whilst I had been like heedful of the other.
There you go. You see the difference?
Wow. Yeah.
Because the way we're scanning these, it's just natural to go like my wife, pause, more careful for the latter born, pause,
Well, yeah.
had
Because
fastened him to a small spare mast, pause, because it's a new sentence, or it's like
Yeah,
a
I
new
think
line.
There's this
Such
funny
as seafaring,
argument.
but no, it's all one thought.
It is all one thought, but I'm so respectful of commas. There's this kind of joke about Oxford commas. Meryl knows about that.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
get rid of them. I mean, again, so, I mean, what we used to do as actors, we would write out our parts
Yeah.
without punctuation.
Oh, my goodness.
And you know, maybe, you know, put the full stops where they made sense, but forget about commas, power, and also, again, it's just the way that the printing in this column, you know, the way it's broken up with the meter.
Yeah.
You know, it just, when you look at the text, it's like this one column of text, you know, that seems to invite you just to pause at you know, like at the end of every one of these blocks of text. You know, the sailors sought for safety by our boat and left the ship, then sinking right to us. You know, so it can't support all that pausing.
Well, pardon me, but I just want to let you know, that was almost impossible for me to do. I just have never had to do that before. It was really hard just physically. So Tom, would you please read the same thing that I just read?
You did it well, though. And that's okay. Again, remember, these actors are like athletes. They've been at this for years.
Oh, okay.
Right. And when we were giving ourselves these jobs, you know, we had the same struggle. I mean, you know, this is 30 years ago, but again, you know, some of us are in good shape, some of us are, you know, in average shape. So it's like it's like something like this. My wife, more careful for the latter born, had fastened him into a small spare mast, such as seafaring men provide for storms. To him, one of the other twins was bound, whilst I had been more heedful of the other.
Oh. So
you spend some time, you know, kind of speaking these things out loud, and you're kind of getting the sense of it. Again, this is a long story that Aegeon is telling.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and then at the end he says, "But ere they come, oh, let me say no more." So when you see an "oh," again, that's Shakespeare telling you that's emotion.
Yeah, yeah.
So he can't go on. But ere they came, oh, let me say no more. I can't take it. You know?
Are you supposed to say air, or you're saying ear? Is it air? E-R-E?
Ere they came. They came.
Yeah, okay.
I can't go on. So that's permission for the actor to have some emotion, you know, to exclaim, oh, you know, oh, you know, oh is what we see in the text.
Right.
But that's an exclamation of emotion. I can go no further. Okay, so we see a few things already, you know, in the construction of the scene and how Shakespeare is setting us up. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be very funny, does it?
Yeah.
Basically, this guy has to raise a bunch of money before the end of the day, or he will be executed, and he's taken off to prison. All right, so that's the setting up, and now as the audience is wondering, like, what's going on? We get that there's twins happening. This old man had two sons. They were separated, and each son had, if you're listening, each son had a twin servant. Remember, that went by very fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the same inn that the mom bore his sons, there was a poorer woman, a meaner woman, he says.
Yeah.
And I bought them. I bought those kids, and I gave one to one son and one to the other to be their servants. So that's the information we have. All right, now.
Tom, I think you overstated a tiny bit, because we know there's two sons and that they were bound to opposite sides of the mast or whatever, but we don't know yet that anybody was separated. That's where he stopped and couldn't go on. So you're sort of teased with that without having been made explicit.
Yeah. Let's see where he says. Let's see.
I think it comes a little later.
Yeah, I do too now. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that's right. In the next, Aegeon continues. That's right. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Continuing on from like around line 100 to 120. So yeah, we go a little further on. and we get the details, right, about the shipwreck and them being separate. All right, so that's kind of the information we have. You know, it's like the first, whatever it is, 10 minutes of the show, basically. We see that we know we're in Ephesius. We see a merchant from another place is now kind of broke the law. This is stupid law, but you know, that's Shakespeare setting up the stakes for us. All right, now we got to meet some of our protagonists. So let's have Merle play Dromio of Ephesus. We're switching now to lines, Act 1, Scene 2, line 43. Okay, so Dromio of Ephesus is coming in.
Mhm.
That will be you, Merle. Okay, and Antipholus of Syracuse, that will be Diane. Okay, so are we placed starting, Merle, with the line "Return so soon"? Or actually, no, let's start with the line 2 lines above that, Antipholus. Here comes the almanac.
I love that.
Okay, go.
I think that's Merle, isn't it?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, it's you, Antipholus. Here comes the almanac and my true date.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Just that you had said when somebody enters, an actor enters, they say a line. And when they exit, they say a line. So that was in my brain that it's not always that way, Tom.
Well, the word enter again is completely arbitrary. That Shakespeare didn't write that.
Oh,
So he says, here comes the almanac of my true date. I'm seeing him. He's not on stage yet. And maybe we see him just as he says, what now? So
oh.
it's moving pretty fast, but okay, let's go.
Okay,
Start.
so here comes the almanac of my true date. What now? How chance thou art to return so soon? So I'm so confused. Am I supposed to continue?
Honey, we can't hear you.
Oh, am I?
Merle's
Oh,
on mute.
Merle.
I'm sorry, I muted myself when I was sneezing.
Oh,
Return so soon, rather approach too late. The capon burns, the pig falls from the spit, the clock hath struck 12 upon the bell. My mistress made it one upon my cheek, and she is so hot because the meat is cold. The meat is cold because you came not home. You came not home because you have no stomach. You have no stomach, having broke your fast. But we know that 'tis fast and pray are penitent for your default today.
Continue. Stop at your win, sir. Keep going.
Diane.
oh, stop in your wind, sir. Tell me this, I pray. Where have you left the money that I gave you?
Oh, 6 pence that I had a Wednesday last to pay the saddler for my mistress's cupper? The saddler had it, sir. I kept it not.
I am not in a sport of humor now. Tell me and dally not, where is the money? We being strangers here, how darest thou trust so great a charge from thine own custody?
I pray you, jest, sir, as you sit at dinner. I from my mistress come to you in post. If I return, I shall be post indeed, for she will score your fault upon my pate. Methinks your maw, like mine, should be your clock and strike you home without a messenger.
Come, Dromio, come. These jests are out of season. Reserve them till a merrier hour than this. Where is the gold I gave in charge to thee?
To me, sir, why you gave no gold to me?
Come on, sir knave, have done your foolishness, and tell me how thou hast disposed thy charge.
My charge is but to fetch you from the marsh. Home to your house, the phoenix, sir, to dinner. My mistress and her sister stays for you.
Now, as I am a Christian, answer me in what safe place you have bestowed my money, or I shall break that merry sconce of yours that stands on tricks when I am undisposed. Where is the 1,000 marks thou hadst of me?
I have some marks of yours upon my pate, some of my mistress's marks upon my shoulders, but not 1,000 marks between you both. If I should pay your worship those again, perchance you will not bear them patiently.
Thy mistress's marks? What mistress, slave, hast thou?
Your worship's wife, my mistress is the phoenix. She that doth fast till you come home to dinner, and prays that you will hie you home to dinner.
What? Wilt thou flout me thus unto my face, being forbid? There, take you that, sir knave.
What mean you? For God's sake, hold your hands. Nay, and you will not, sir. I'll take my heels.
Okay, so now we're getting to the funny parts. So clearly, the one master is mistaking the other servant for his servant, and the poor servant, Romeo, has no idea what's going on. We understand what's happening, but obviously the two on stage are getting more and more frustrated. Now,
Right.
let's just try this a little bit again. Let's pick it, let's say from where Antipholus says, "Where have you left the money that I gave you?" Right? That's a little towards the top of that little scene. Where have you left the money that I gave you? Right? Can you get there, Diane?
What line is that, Tom?
It's about 55 or something.
Oh, okay.
Where have you left the money that I gave
Oh,
you?
yes, yes, I'm sorry, yes. Mhm.
And we'll just continue for a few until Dromio says, "and strike you home without a messenger." So it's just, maybe a page or so, half page. But I want you to say it at twice the speed.
Oh, my goodness. Well, wait, I'm so sorry. So it's going to start with, who am I? Am I Antipholus?
Yes, you're still Antipholus.
Yes, yes. And I say, stop in your wind, or do I say, oh, sixpence?
You say, stop in your wind, sir. Tell me this, I pray.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and we're
That's-
going to do that whole
And
page.
you'll go, and we'll just go on until Dromio says,
I thought we were reading it pretty fast.
Yeah, I thought so too, but
"No, I
I'll
want
tell
it
you-
faster."
that
And I
last,
want also, and I don't want any pause between the characters speaking. So it's almost as if it's one continuous line of iambic pentameter. So,
okay,
so if I'm speaking like this, then it's almost like the next I am is the next character speaking.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So let's see
All
what
right.
happens when we just speed it up a little,
Hmm.
and have no pause between the characters.
Yeah.
Okay.
got it.
Start with "stop in your wind, sir."
Stop in your wind, sir. Tell me this, I pray. Where have you left the money that I gave you?
Oh, sixpence. I had that Wednesday last to pay the saddler for my mistress's cupboard. The saddler had it, sir. I kept it not.
I am not in a sportive humor now. Tell me and dally not. Where is the money? We being strangers here, how darest thou trust so great a charge from thine own custody?
I pray you jest, sir, as you sit at dinner. I from my mistress have come to you in post. If I return, I shall be post indeed. For she will score your fault upon my pate. Methinks your maw, like mine, should be your clock, and strike you home without a messenger.
Come, Dromio, come. These jests are out of season. Reserve them till a merrier hour than this. Where is the gold I gave in
To
charge?
me, sir? Why, you gave no gold to me.
Okay.
Come on,
All
sir,
right. Now
knave.
do we see something happening here?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I was just having the best time.
The rhythm of the language is propelling the scene,
Yes, it
and
is.
and there you see Antipholus getting more and more perturbed.
Yeah.
He's not getting the answers that he's wanting, and he's like, "What is going on here? Why are you being so stubborn or saucy, or what is wrong with you? Have you lost your mind?" And poor Dromio is saying, I'm coming from your house with your wife, don't you know? He's getting more and more bewildered,
Right.
and he's also saying, you beat me. It's like, what kind of marks? So we're seeing him being very funny, and he's using the language right away. What marks? You mean like the time you schmecked me on the head the other day? Is that? I don't know what else to tell you. And so you gave no gold to me. It's so poor Dromio. Okay, so that is kind of the comic engine of the show.
The engine. Yeah, I was going to say it sounded like a motor. And one of my favorite passages here was, we didn't do it, when Antipholus of Syracuse, the last part that he says, "Upon my life, by some device or other, the villain is armed of all my money." What is cozenage? What does that mean?
Cozenage, you're lying, you're tricking me. To
Oh, I
cozen someone is to fool them, to lie to them.
I see. Thank you.
So
But that's to me quite a big hint about witches and an illusion and and
Yeah, we'll
disguise.
talk about that stuff more when we read in April, when we get into some of the content. But yeah,
Yeah.
witchcraft is a big
Oh,
theme
huge.
here.
Yeah.
And again, we'll talk about more about the content later, but
Okay.
yeah, witchcraft had a much bigger and more emotional resonance and spirits and fairies. I mean, that was much more real to Shakespeare's audiences than it is to us. And the idea of superstition, and you're born under a bad star, and you have a cleft foot, and what I mean, all these
Right.
things about signs and
disguise. He says disguise. So like to me, it's like reality versus illusion. What's real, what's not real.
and sometimes a character will say, am I being pixelated? Am I, have I been bewitched?
Am I in a dream? Am I in a dream?
Am I in a dream? Yeah. So we're going to get to that in April, but let's go forward now to mistaken identity, which we just did that. Okay, that was a scene we just did. Rapid fire, we built a speech. Notice the wordplay: hot versus cold, and the build. You're not home because you don't have the stomach, which also means appetite and courage. So there's a sense that maybe Antipholus is being a little browbeaten by his wife.
Oh.
So he says, you do not have the stomach to go home. It could mean that maybe this is a shrewish wife, which is another convention of the day, and that Antipholus it's not exactly a happy marriage for some reason. Maybe not, we don't know. But that does go by very, very, very fast. And of course, there was rhyming. The characters are rhyming already.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the audience would have loved this pitter patter, this banter, the mirroring of words, where Dromio says, what do you mean marks like money? No, I'm talking about you schmecking me, and the audience would have loved all that and would have delighted in Dromio's wit. So Dromio is like, he gives as good as he gets, apparently. That seems to be one of the characteristics of these guys. Okay, now.
Let me just say, because I think it's important that Tom was talking about how we approach Shakespeare now. When I taught high school English, we used to take our kids to a Shakespeare play every year. And I taught in a vocational high school, and some of the classes I taught were vocational kids who were going to be auto mechanics and stuff like that. They were the groundlings. And no matter what play we saw, the kids who were going to college were just sitting there awed by the language. They didn't necessarily get the humor. It was like, this is Shakespeare. We're supposed to come here and worship. And it was the groundling, the kids from the auto body shop, who got every pun and every dirty allusion, and were having a great time because they didn't come with any expectations.
All right, let's towards the end now, and we're going to have another great monologue from Antipholus. And let's have Jim do this. This is 5-1, starting with line 214.
Wait, scene 1, act 1?
Act 5.
Oh,
Act 5? Okay. I don't have lines in mind, but if you tell me act and scene and give me the first few lines, I'll find
My liege, I am advised what I say.
I'm sorry, what is the line again, Tom?
It's starting with a line 214. Antipholus says, my liege, I am advised what I say.
Yeah.
Act 5, scene 1?
Yeah.
And
so this is now, a lot has happened. There's been a lot of mishaps. People have been arrested. Many mistaken identities. The wife sees the Antipholus, she thinks it's his husband, and he doesn't know who she is. So there's been a couple of different versions of mistaken identity. So we've seen by this point each Antipholus mismatched with their wrong Dromio, right? So we've seen that happen where one Antipholus thinks he's talking to his servant, and the other guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And we've seen also where the husband is mismatched without, is placed in jail for he doesn't know why he's placed in jail. And we've seen the other Antipholus be greeted by a woman who claims to be his wife, and he thinks she's a witch. So there's all that happened. And now it's time to resolve. The day is coming to a close. If Aegeon doesn't come up with the money, he's going to be executed. And so now everyone's coming in one giant mess, and Antipholus is trying to give an account. This is Antipholus of Ephesus, of what has happened to him all this day. So let's hear him list
He's the
his.
guy who lives in town, right?
This is his. This is his town.
He's the local.
He's
Yeah.
the local, and as all this has been flowing around him, he's been arrested, has been mistaken, and things. He was supposed to pay a debt. The money, he thought he gave the money, and then the money went missing. He is just exasperated. So let's hear what he has to say. My liege, I'm advised what I said.
My liege, I'm advised what I say, neither disturbed with the effect of wine nor heady rash, provoked with raging ire, albeit my wrongs might make one wiser mad. This woman locked me out this day from dinner. That goldsmith there, were he not packed with her, could witness it, for he was with me then, who parted with me to go fetch a chain, promising to bring it to the Porpentine, where Balthazar and I did dine together. Our dinner done, and he not coming thither, I went to seek him. In the street I met him, and in his company, that gentleman there.
Okay, hold on. So now let's slow it down just a tad. And there's a lot of, now remember, there's a lot of people on stage, right? So when you're getting, when he's talking about somebody and he's saying this one hit that, this guy, that guy, him, and I meant him.
Yeah, okay.
So because this is helping the audience unpack his bewilderment. Like, what? I met this guy and that guy. So let's just take it again. My liege, I'm advised what I said.
My liege, I'm advised what I say, neither disturbed with the effect of wine nor heady rash, provoked with raging ire, albeit my wrongs might make one wiser mad. This woman locked me out this day from dinner. That goldsmith there, were he not packed with her, could witness it.
Okay, slow down. I like it. This woman locked me out. That goldsmith there, were he not packed with her, like that. In other words, he's telling us. This is funny because it's like he's unraveling the knot, as it were. He's trying to make it plain. So go ahead, start again, my liege.
My liege, I'm advised what I say, neither disturbed with the effect of wine nor heady rash, provoked with raging ire, albeit my wrongs might make one wiser mad. This woman locked me out this day from dinner. That goldsmith there, were he not packed with her, could witness it, for he was with me then, who parted with me to go fetch a chain, promising to bring it to the Porpentine, where Balthazar and I did dine together. Our dinner done, and he not coming thither, I went to seek him. In the street, I met him, and in his company, that gentleman there did this goldsmith swear me down, that I this day of him received the chain, which God he knows I saw not.
God he knows.
It froze.
For the which he did arrest me with an officer. I did obey and sent my peasant home for certain ducats, he with none returned. Then fairly I bespoke the officer to go in person with me to my house. By the way, we met my wife, her sister, and a rabble more of villain confederates. Along with them, they brought one Pinch, a hungry, lean-faced villain, a mere anatomy, a mountebank, a threadbare juggler, and a fortune teller, a needy, hollow-eyed, sharp-looking wretch, a living dead man. This pernicious slave, forsooth, took him on as a conjurer, and gazing in mine eyes, feeling my pulse, and with no faces, 'twere out-facing me, cries out, I was possessed. And altogether they fell upon me, bound me, bore me thence, and in a dark and dankish vault at home, they left me and my man both bound together, till, gnawing with my teeth, my bonds in sunder, I gained my freedom, and immediately ran hither to your grace, whom I beseech to give me ample satisfaction for these deep shames and great indignities.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. He had to gnaw the bonds with his teeth. Oh, what a bad day you've had.
There's a lot of slapstick in this.
And so you can see that there's a build here. I came, I went, he did this. It's just, until he recounts what this guy Pinch to him. So he really was pissed off by the way he was treated by this Pinch guy. He really doesn't like him.
Yeah.
But what a recounting. And so it's actually very funny to see it done when the actor is portraying, he's very serious and he's really trying to make himself clear.
Yeah.
And he's very anxious, that people understand him, what happened to him. I'm just going about my business. guys, and then this guy came with him and he took me and oh my God. Okay. So again, a lot of reporting. And again, so Shakespeare is also doing something clever here. He's telling us what he already told us, right? We've seen this, but again, as an astute playwright, and again, the education and attention levels of his audience could be tricky, could be chancy. He wants to remind the audience of what they've already seen. So it's like a recap.
I found it helpful, Tom, because I found it hard in reading this, and maybe it's my addition. Because it would list the speakers as E.ant or S.ant.
Oh, that's hard.
And so it was hard to keep track of what's happening, and you're sort of getting it over the course of the comedy.
Yeah, that's not helpful at all.
So you get to this, and at the end, it's like, oh yeah, now I get how all these pieces were fitting together.
Yeah, right. He's recounting what we've seen
now
earlier in the play.
Tom, when they would put this play on, would these actors be in costume, and would they have makeup so they really did look like twins?
No, there wouldn't be anything like that. Maybe the guy playing Falstaff might have been a fatter man. He might have had some padding, but
might you and I have played two of the twins, and people would just have to?
Yeah, they would have picked people who were similar in stature, and put them in similar clothes.
Yeah, similar clothing, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, you'd get someone who's as close as possible in stature and build and complexion. But even so, once you have established the convention, the audience goes along with it.
Yeah.
So if the two people are the two antiphali and they're not exact matches, but they're kind of the same, we go along with it. Okay, and in our production, one of the Dromios was played by a woman, but it was kind of unisex. So she played it as a man. It's sort of the opposite of where the women men played women. She just pretended she was a Dromio as a man, and not, and the audience had no trouble with it. All right, heading to the finale here. We're going to wrap this up as the family is reunited. So we need 5 people, but we don't have 5 people. So
you can play 2 parts.
I think we have enough for, let's see. Merle, why don't you be the abbess? And maybe we'll really tax you guys by having Diane be both Dromios.
Oh, geez.
And Jim.
No, you need 2 different Dromios, Tom.
Huh?
You need 2 different Dromios.
No, I think we're going to try it this way.
Okay.
You're going to just have to pretend to use a different voice.
Oh, geez. So where are we? Like
I'll tell you in a second.
Oh, okay.
And Jim, you're going to be both antiphali.
Oh boy. Okay.
All right, and I'm going to play all the other characters. I'm going to be the Duke, Adriana, the courtesan, and Aegeon.
And where do we start?
Yeah,
All right, we're going to be on Act 5, Scene 1 at line 330.
Who's speaking? Give me the first few lines. I have no line.
The abbess will be speaking first. Most mighty Duke, behold a man much wronged.
And there are stage directions, at least in mine, that say re-enter abbess with Antipholus of Syracuse and Dromio.
Yeah, they're all coming on together.
Found it. Okay.
So again, Merle is the abbess. Diane is both Dromios and Jim is both Antiphali, and I'm everybody else.
Okay.
All right, begin. My most mighty Duke.
My most mighty Duke, behold a man much wronged.
I see 2 husbands, or mine eyes deceive me. One of these men is genius to the other, and so of these, which is the natural man, and which is the spirit? Who deciphers them?
I, sir, am Dromio. Command him away.
You're both Dromios, Diane.
Yeah. I, sir, am Dromio. Pray let me stay.
Aegeon, art thou not, or else his ghost?
Oh, my old master, who hath bound him here?
Whoever bound him, I will loose his bonds and gain a husband by his liberty. Speak, old Aegeon, if thou beest the man that had a wife once called Amelia, that bore thee a burden 2 fair sons, or if thou beest the same Aegeon, speak, and speak unto the same Amelia.
Why, here begins his morning story right. These two Antipholuses, these two so
What?
like, as
You-
to these two
you
Dromios,
skipped
one in
stuff.
semblance.
Tom, you skipped.
You skipped, you
You're
skipped
too
some.
fast. It's Aegeus who speaks.
If I dream not, is you.
Line 345, you skipped 2 speeches.
What? No, I
I
think,
have, my text has Duke speak first. That's
yeah,
interesting.
mine too.
So, look up ahead. Do you have, if I dream not, thou art Amelia?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, but that comes after the Duke speaks.
No, mine has it now.
Mine has it now too.
Well,
Isn't that
I can't help that. Mine has it differently.
Oh,
That's
that's
interesting.
interesting. I've never seen that before. I mean, a lot of stuff changes, but generally the 2 lines, those are the same.
Yeah,
The
that's
order would be the
interesting.
same.
Well, so do it the way we have it. Read it. There are 2 sentences before the Duke comes in again. Read Aegeus. If I dream not, thou art Amelia. Do you have that at all?
My line, the Duke speaks right after and speak into the same
Yeah.
Amelia.
Mine's the same as Tom's. Mhm.
Oh, how funny. Mine has
Maybe they
Aegeus.
just skip those. Why don't we read?
All right, okay.
I'll be Aegean, you be the abbess. If I dream not, thou art Amelia. If thou art she, tell me, where's that son that floated with thee on the fatal raft?
By men of Epidemium, he and I and the twin Dromio all were taken up. But by and by, rude fishermen of Corinth by force took Dromio and my son from them and left me, and me they left with those of Epidemium. What then became of them, I cannot tell. I to this fortune what you see me in.
Antipholus, thou camest from Corinth first?
No?
Nope.
Wow.
We have the
Yeah.
Duke saying, why here begins his morning story right.
I don't, I have, the Duke says, stay, stand apart. I know not which is which.
Oh, so again, it cut another couple, your guys cut it. So Jim, read the Duke.
Okay. Why, here begins his morning story right. These 2 Antipholus, these 2 so like, and these 2 Dromios, one in semblance, besides her urging of her rack at sea, these are the parents to these children, which accidentally are met together. Antipholus, thou camest from Corinth first?
And Antipholus says,
Oh,
no,
that's
sir,
me
not
then.
I came
Oh,
from Syracuse.
No, sir, not I. I came from Syracuse. And
And
now
now
the Duke can
In
say,
our version time, now the Duke says, stay in.
Stand apart. I know not which is which.
I came from Corinth, my most gracious lord,
And I with him.
brought to this town by that most famous warrior, Duke Benophon, your most renowned uncle.
Well, which of 2 did dine with me today?
I, gentle mistress.
Are you not my husband?
No, I say nay to that. And so do I. Yet did she call me so? And this fair gentlewoman, her sister here, did call me brother. I told you then, I hope I shall have leisure to make good, if this not be a dream I see and hear.
This is the chain, sir, which you had of me.
I think it be, sir, I deny it not. And you, sir, for this chain arrested me.
I think I did, sir. I deny it not. I lent you money, sir, to be your bail by Dromio, but I think he bought it not.
No, none by me.
This purse of ducats I received from you, and Dromio, my man, did bring them me. I see we still did meet each other's man, and I was ta'en for him, and he for me, and thereupon these errors are arose. These ducats pawn I for my father here.
It shall not need. Thy father's hath his life. Sir, I must have that diamond from you.
There, take it, and much thanks for my good cheer.
Renowned Duke, vouchsafe and to take the pains to go with us into the abbey here, and here at large discourse all our fortunes, all that are assembled in this place, that by the sympathized one day's error have suffered wrong. Go, keep us company, and we shall make full satisfaction. 33 years have I but gone in travail of you, sir, of you, my sons, until this present hour my heavy burden ne'er delivered. The Duke, my husband, and my children both, to you the calendars of their nativity, go to a gossip's feast, and go with me. After so long grief, much nativity.
With
Such-
all my heart, I'll gossip at this feast.
Master, shall I fetch your stuff from shipboard?
Dromio, what stuff of mine hast thou embarked?
Your goods that lay at host, sir, in the centaur.
He speaks to me. I am your master, Dromio. Come, go with us. We'll look to that anon. Embrace
That's me,
thy brother.
actually.
Here, rejoice with him. So
That was
let's
actually
have
me.
Merle be Syracusa and Diane be Ephesius.
Okay,
You mean like Dromio up?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a fat friend at your master's house that kitchened me for you today at dinner. Now, she now shall be my sister, not my wife.
Methinks you are my glass and not my brother. I see by you I am a sweet-faced youth. Will you walk in to see their gossiping?
Not I, sir, you are my elder.
That's a question. How shall we try it?
We'll draw cuts for the senior. Till then, lead thou first.
Nay, then thus. We came into the world like brother and brother, and now let's go hand in hand, not one before another.
Okay, let's take that again. And now this time, when they're saying, methinks you are my glass. So what do you think is happening just before that?
Well, it's coming to, you mean context-wise?
Yeah,
It's
what do you
com-
think is happening on the stage when he says, methinks you are my glass?
They're looking at
No,
each other
he's
now.
looking at each other. Yeah, they're mimicking. It's a mirrors, right?
Yeah,
So,
and are they would they be close?
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
I would think.
So I think you can see the Dromio of Syracuse is like, saying like, your woman thought I was her guy, and that was
Yeah.
weird. That was awkward.
Yeah.
And it's a little, I think it's very funny. He's like, he's relieved. Yeah, she's be my sister, not my wife. You know what I get?
Right.
But there's still there's a sense of like, I'm looking at you like right really close, and maybe they even might have done one of those things like one lifts his hand and the other lifts his hand, or something. There's a moment there, and I think there's a sense of wonder, isn't there? All right, so let's
Or of like, aha, like
yeah.
you could have had a V8, like
And it's also very funny because of what he says next, as if to say, well, we don't really have a lot of mirrors in my house,
Mhm.
and I'm pretty good looking, actually.
That's what I
It's
would
kind of funny.
It is cute. It
And then this little bit of business as they're walking towards the door. So they're walking and talking as they're saying this,
Who's the old?
and you could see like they're jockeying. You go first, like Alphonse and Gaston. You go first. No, I'm not going. So you can imagine this stage business, right? I'm letting you go, and then no, I'm not going. So there's like a kerfuffle. So how are we going to do this? If I'm not going first and you're not going first, what are we going to do? And they go, and then they say, and now let's go hand in hand. Do you think they're actually holding? I think that's a cue. They're actually going to hold hands and walk
Sure.
in together. All right,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
take it from the same point again. Dromio of Syracuse, there's a fat friend.
Okay. There's a fat friend at your master's house that kitchened me for you today at dinner. She shall now be my sister, not my wife.
Methinks you are my glass and not my brother. I see by you I am a sweet-faced youth. Will you walk in to see their gossiping?
Not I, sir, you are my elder.
Well, that's a question. How shall we try it?
We'll draw cuts for the senior. Till then, lead thou first.
Nay, then thus. We came into the world like brother and brother, and now let's go hand in hand, not one before the other.
Okay, well done.
Nice to end with a heroic couplet too.
Yeah. Questions for Sooth?
I had a blast. I loved every second, Mr. Tresser. Thank you so much, Professor.
Yes, it's been a whole lot of fun and really interesting. What will
Yeah.
we do when we're with the whole group?